In this video, we're going to look at how to sequence traffic in the high-level sectors of Radar Chaos Hawaii Edition. You may be familiar with the fact that we have a minimum separation requirement of 5 miles between all aircraft, or 1,000 feet vertically. But when you have several aircraft going to the same destination, you can't just dump all of these aircraft on the arrival controller only 5 miles apart, because they won't be able to digest that. So we have a requirement that aircraft be given to the next controller 10 miles in trail of one another. And what that means, if I click the mileage button, which you can't see but it's on the screen at the bottom left, you see these values appear above each aircraft's tag. So our first aircraft into Honolulu is United 668, and they're 45 miles from Maggie, and WestJet 397 only 48 miles from Maggie. So I only have 3 miles between these two. What this is saying is that if I do nothing more, and if I just sit back and do nothing, they're going to cross Maggie 3 miles apart, and the next controller is not going to be too happy about that. So there's different things I could do. I could slow this aircraft down if I wanted to. I could speed this aircraft up. But giving speed assignments is more disruptive than just giving a simple delay vector, which is basically grabbing the aircraft by its nose and steering it. So I'll point this aircraft in this direction, fly heading 140, and that should be enough to build in my necessary 10 miles. Problem number 2 is I've got this WestJet flight only 13 miles behind, and as I widen out this first one to the southeast, this third aircraft will overtake. So this aircraft's going to copy the aircraft it's following. They're both going to go on this southeast bound track, just like that. Now the third problem is Delta 472, who needs a descent, and he is not too far behind WestJet 224 up here. 33, 38, 49, 64. I have to watch these values pretty carefully. I'm thinking about the fact that WestJet 397 needs to be 10 miles behind United. WestJet needs to be 10 miles behind WestJet. Delta needs to be 10 miles behind WestJet. You can drive yourself crazy doing the math, but really just consider the fact that we're tight for space here, and we may very well wind up having to give Delta 472 a bit of a delay vector as well. So how are we doing here? I've got 6 miles built in between these two, and this first aircraft is fast. I can see that they're grounding 480 knots compared to WestJet's 440. So that counts for something. I don't need to work too hard to build in this 10 miles. It's starting to happen all by itself, in fact. I don't want to build in any more than I need to because I'm going to get backed up here in a minute. Whoops, WestJet 224 needs a descent clearance. I'm realizing that I'm running out of my 10 miles that exists between these two aircraft, and at this time I'm electing to give Delta a delay vector to about a heading of 280. I've got some crossing traffic here. I've got some more aircraft coming up the pipe. Okay, I've got my 10 miles between these two aircraft, so I'm sending WestJet direct Maggie again. In fact, I've put in more than I needed because of this speed difference. This first aircraft is much faster than the following aircraft. This WestJet 224 is 11 miles behind its traffic, but because it's so much faster, I'm going to leave them on their heading for a little bit longer. I'll do some tidying up here. This aircraft needs a bit of a turn to avoid its traffic. This aircraft wants 35,000 feet. This aircraft needs to be handed off. So that mileage is good, 12 and 24. And this aircraft can now be sent direct Maggie because I'm confident that they will not get any closer than 10 miles. Now I'm looking hard at this Delta 472, who is only 7 miles behind WestJet 224, 6 miles behind WestJet 224, and they're faster to boot. So they will stay on that heading for a little while. Okay, this aircraft has been accepted by the Honolulu Tracon controller. Oops, looks like we got another coming here. That's just great. It's always one more aircraft than you counted on, that's the saying. So I've built in a lot here, and that was kind of a mistake. Too much talking kind of does that. I have 15 miles between these two aircraft. The second one is overtaking the first one, so maybe it's a good thing that I've got that extra mileage. If I only had 10 between these two right now, I'd probably run out of 10. I'd wind up with 9 or 8 just because of this speed overtake. I have 7 miles between Delta and WestJet now, and I have something else to think about. I've got this United that's crossing through this entire sequencing operation, and I'm worried that they may tangle with Delta. I do have we have these red warning lines that pop up whenever there is a predicted conflict, but I don't like to rely on that. In fact, this simulation is designed to penalize you if these warning lines come up. So what I will do is I'll hit my Future Paths button at the bottom left, which you can't see, and it shows me that these two aircraft may very well conflict or come close to conflicting. It's a little difficult to see, but if you look closely at these green lines, it shows you that this aircraft will be at 26,000 feet right here, and Delta will be at 24,600 feet right there. They're just barely going to clear each other with the necessary required separation. What I'm going to do to solve this is I'm going to tell this aircraft to expedite their climb, and tell this aircraft to expedite their descent. I've turned off the voices, by the way, because I find it difficult to do a tutorial with my talking and the pilots responding. This has worked out quite well. I've got 14 miles. I only needed 10, but that's fine. I'll put them into the handoff. And I have my 10 miles between these two now. I'll send them direct Maggie. And by the time they've made that turn, I'm going to have about 12 or 13, which I need because this aircraft is fast. Okay, they've accepted the handoff, so I can switch them over. Now once they switch over, the tag becomes simplified and it shows just altitude, which in a future update I may add the mileage back in to these simplified tags, because if you hand aircraft off too soon, then you can't see what the mileage value is, which can be frustrating. This is working out very, very well. Next thing I have to think about is this Alaska 599, who's only 50 miles from Maggie, a mere 22 miles in trail of Delta. But it looks like it's going to work out well. 22 miles between Delta and Alaska is plenty. And I don't foresee Alaska ever catching up to Delta. Not in 1,000 years. So this has worked out well. I'm going to be a nice guy and I'm going to tell them they can have a normal descent. And I'm going to tell United that they can do a normal climb now. There's no point in making them climb like crazy when they don't absolutely have to. I've only got 11 miles now between these two aircraft, and I'm running out because of this 40-knot overtake. So I'm going to tell Delta to slow down to about 270, I think. 270 is good. It's just a number. I wouldn't want to slow them down any more than 250. I know that I have the ability to slow them right down, but in real life, if you're giving anything slower than 270 knots to somebody that's up high, they're not going to like that very much. So this is working out. These speeds are looking matched, and I've got 11 miles, and I'm going to hand them both off at once. And that's all there is to sequencing high-level traffic. Thanks for watching.